Did Meghan Markle really risk everything while still married to Trevor Engelson? That's the question swirling through Hollywood right now. A leaked video, dropped by none other than Jessica Mulroney herself, has sent shockwaves through the celebrity world, and the details are far juicier than anyone could have imagined. Before we dive into the full story, let's pause for a moment. Think about the stakes. A high-profile marriage, a rising Hollywood starlet, a mysterious co-star, and a PR powerhouse who suddenly decides to spill it all. It sounds like a movie plot, but this is real life. And today, you're getting front row seats. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. At the center of this storm is Meghan Markle, a woman who has mastered the art of public image, yet whose private life has always been a magnet for speculation. In this particular chapter of her life, she wasn't yet royalty. She was an actress navigating fame, ambition, and the complexities of love. Married to Trevor Engelson, her husband at the time, Meghan was building both her career and her personal life. But Hollywood, as we know, is rarely forgiving. Secrets rarely stay buried. And sometimes, the people closest to you, friends, colleagues, even allies, can become the loudest sources of betrayal. From the outside, it looked like a fairy tale. Meghan Markle and Trevor Engelson, young, ambitious, attractive, Hollywood's golden couple. But, as often happens in stories that later explode onto the headlines, appearances can be deceiving. Hollywood loves a perfect couple narrative. It's part of the brand, the image, the glossy magazine covers, the paparazzi smiles. Meghan and Trevor were photographed walking hand in hand, laughing at premieres, vacationing in sun-drenched locales. It was the Instagram dream, the fantasy Hollywood sells. Fans adored them. Reporters gushed. And yet, beneath the surface, reality was quietly, dangerously, shifting. Trevor Engelson was a producer, smart, charismatic, ambitious. He met Meghan on a film set, where her charm and poise immediately caught his attention. Their relationship quickly escalated into engagement, and then marriage. But Meghan, still carving her path in Hollywood, had a career to nurture, auditions to attend, and scripts to read. She was ambitious, driven, and already learning the unspoken rules of the industry: charm, timing, and keeping personal matters private. Marriage, of course, was supposed to be a sanctuary, a place where love shields you from the outside world. But for Meghan and Trevor, the pressures were relentless. Hollywood has a way of amplifying even the smallest fissures in relationships, and the Engelson-Markle union was no exception. Every red carpet, every film premiere, every social media post was under scrutiny. Friends whispered, colleagues speculated, and the media? They were relentless. A misplaced glance, a half-smile, or a whispered rumor could ignite into a full-blown story overnight. At first, Meghan and Trevor seemed to navigate it perfectly. They laughed at tabloid stories together. They traveled the world. They celebrated career milestones. It seemed like the perfect marriage. But perfection is fragile. Small cracks appeared. Arguments behind closed doors. Long hours apart. The pressure of Hollywood fame collided with the intensity of a private relationship. And when ambition meets intimacy under the harshest lights, tension is inevitable. Then came the subtle, almost imperceptible shifts, the first red flags that something was off. Meghan's focus increasingly shifted toward her career, toward roles that would define her beyond Hollywood's socialite status. Trevor's career, meanwhile, was building differently, with less public attention but equally high stakes. Late nights on set, meetings, and travel schedules created distance. Emotional gaps widened. And in Hollywood, distance is dangerous. Because when you're not looking, the industry has ways of stepping in to fill those gaps. It wasn't malicious at first. There were moments of laughter, late-night phone calls, and quiet dinners. But there were also moments of tension, arguments about priorities, the pressure of public perception, and the delicate balance between love and ambition. Friends would later describe the marriage as beautiful on the outside, complicated on the inside. The contrast was stark, and that's the kind of pressure that primes a story for scandal. And then, there was the co-star. Charming, charismatic, easy to talk to, and endlessly attentive. He wasn't the villain, at least, not at first, but proximity is everything. Film sets are incubators for chemistry, for subtle glances, lingering conversations, and intimate connections that extend beyond scripts. Meghan, ambitious and driven, was navigating professional relationships that sometimes blurred lines. What starts as collaboration can quickly become something more when emotions are involved. Here's where it gets interesting. Hollywood insiders later revealed that there were subtle signs early on: private dinners, shared laughter caught on candid photos, moments that looked innocent but, in retrospect, hinted at deeper connections. It wasn't the glaring headlines yet. It was the whispers, the fleeting interactions, the private moments nobody else noticed. And in the world of celebrity gossip, whispers can turn into viral stories faster than anyone expects. Meanwhile, Trevor was focused on supporting Meghan, trusting in their love, and believing that distance and pressure were temporary. But trust in Hollywood is a precarious thing. The very people you rely on for friendship and loyalty can sometimes be the ones who expose you to the harshest scrutiny. And when someone like Jessica Mulroney enters the picture, a confidant, a PR expert, someone with both influence and access, suddenly private matters become vulnerable to exposure. It's easy to judge from the outside. Why didn't Meghan just wait? Why did this happen? But relationships are messy. They exist in contexts, pressures, and environments that outsiders rarely understand. Hollywood is a pressure cooker for emotions, ambition, and temptation. And in Meghan and Trevor's story, the pressure cooker had already begun to hiss. But even as the cracks grew, the Engelsons maintained appearances. They attended premieres together. They posted happy photos on social media. Friends insisted the marriage was strong. Yet, behind closed doors, subtle shifts, secrets, and temptations were quietly reshaping the narrative. And the people closest to them, friends, colleagues, confidants, began noticing things that were impossible to ignore. This is where the story takes its first turn. Behind the glossy Hollywood surface, Meghan was increasingly drawn to someone who understood the pressures she faced in ways Trevor could not. It wasn't a decision made lightly. It wasn't something she could control entirely. But in the world of human emotion, proximity, attraction, and opportunity collide in ways that can be explosive. And in Hollywood, explosive stories rarely stay private. By the time the leaked videos surfaced years later, the cracks in the Engelson marriage were already historic, the chemistry with the co-star already established, and the industry buzzing with rumors that nobody dared publish. Until Jessica Mulroney's controversial decision changed everything. The leak was more than just a scandal. It was the culmination of hidden tensions, Hollywood temptations, and private choices colliding with public exposure. And yet, for Trevor Engelson, the full reality remained unclear. He had glimpses, hints, and suspicions, but nothing prepared him for the actual evidence that would surface. Meanwhile, Meghan, navigating career ambitions, emotional temptations, and the glare of the media, faced decisions that could alter everything she had built. In Hollywood, timing is everything. And the timing of this leaked video, years later, would ignite a storm far larger than anyone anticipated. But before we get to that, we need to understand the full context. The co-star, the chemistry, the subtle interactions that set the stage for scandal, and the friend who held the power to expose it all. Because in the next chapter, the co-star's presence on set isn't just an anecdote. It's the spark that would ignite one of the most shocking Hollywood revelations in recent memory. Enter Jessica Mulroney. Known for her impeccable style, her powerful connections, and her influence in entertainment circles, Jessica wasn't just a friend. She was a gatekeeper. And somehow, she ended up with access to something explosive, a private moment involving Meghan and a co-star from the hit show Suits, leaked for the press in a video that shocked anyone who saw it. This isn't just gossip. This is a scandal with layers of betrayal, strategy, and consequences that ripple through Hollywood, the media, and the lives of everyone involved. You might be wondering, why now? Why is this story resurfacing in 2026, years after Meghan's Suits days? The answer is surprisingly simple. Timing is everything. Celebrities, especially someone like Meghan Markle, live in a world where past actions never really die. They just wait for the right moment to explode. And this leak isn't just a relic of the past. It intersects with Meghan's current image, her personal relationships, and her ongoing public narrative. Suddenly, a private act from years ago becomes a headline, a talking point, and a viral sensation. But let's back up a moment. Imagine the scene. A Hollywood set buzzing with cameras, crew, and talent. Meghan, young and ambitious, navigating the pressures of fame while still legally married. And a co-star whose charm, wit, and proximity make him an impossible temptation. These aren't just actors on a screen. They're people whose choices have real-life consequences. And behind the scenes, a PR expert watches it all, calculating every angle, every fallout, and eventually, deciding to leak something the world was never meant to see. What makes this story even more compelling is the human element. Betrayal isn't just about headlines, it's about emotions. Trevor Engelson, Meghan's husband at the time, likely had no idea what was unfolding. Friends and colleagues, caught between loyalty and curiosity, faced impossible choices. And Jessica Mulroney? She stepped into a storm she couldn't fully control. For those watching from the outside, it's scandal. For those involved, it's life-altering. Here's the twist. This isn't your typical Hollywood gossip. This leak exposes power dynamics, personal choices, and the fragility of trust. It raises questions about friendship, loyalty, and the consequences of actions taken in private. What compels someone like Jessica Mulroney to expose such intimate details? And how does a moment between two people on a TV set become the centerpiece of a public narrative that dominates headlines? These are the questions we're about to explore, chapter by chapter, unraveling the story in ways that will shock you, make you question assumptions, and keep you on the edge of your seat. Now, imagine the reactions, the whispers in Hollywood hallways, the subtle nods at industry parties, the headlines that appear overnight. Imagine Trevor Engelson learning pieces of this story through the press, rather than in private. Imagine Meghan facing scrutiny not for her acting, but for her personal choices, magnified 1,000-fold by social media and tabloid culture. And at the center of it all is Jessica Mulroney, whose decision to leak the video changes everything for everyone involved. And yet, we haven't even revealed the full details. What exactly happened between Meghan and the co-star? How much did Trevor know? And when? What were Jessica's motives? These questions will drive us through this hour-long deep dive, where every chapter uncovers new layers of intrigue, betrayal, and consequence. You'll see how Hollywood's glitz and glamour masks complex human emotions, and how a single leaked video can upend lives, reputations, and careers. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this isn't just a story about Meghan Markle. It's about trust, secrecy, and the explosive consequences when private moments become public fodder. And while it's easy to judge from the outside, we'll also explore the human side, the decisions made under pressure, the vulnerabilities exposed, and the difficult truths that no one talks about openly. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew. It's scandal, it's betrayal, it's Hollywood at its rawest. And it all begins with one leaked video. But here's the kicker. The story doesn't start with Meghan. It starts with Jessica Mulroney, a friend, a confidant, and ultimately, the person who decided the world needed to know. And once that video went public, everything changed. Relationships shifted, careers were impacted, and the fallout? It's still echoing today. By the end of this hour, you won't just be shocked. You'll feel like you've been behind the velvet ropes of Hollywood, witnessing secrets no one else was meant to see. And just when you think you've seen it all, the next chapter will reveal even more twists that nobody expected. So let's begin, because what happens next isn't just a scandal. It's a lesson in ambition, secrecy, and the power of exposure. And remember, the most shocking details are still ahead, waiting to be revealed. Sometimes, the smallest sparks ignite the biggest fires. And on the set of Suits, a spark was quietly building, one that no one expected, and one that would eventually fuel a Hollywood scandal. If Hollywood loves anything, it loves chemistry. It thrives on the magic that happens when two people connect, not just on screen but off it. Meghan Markle was talented, ambitious, and magnetic. She had a charisma that drew people in, co-stars, crew, fans, and, as we're about to see, one very special co-star. The man in question. Charming, sharp, endlessly engaging, was more than just a colleague. On set, He had the kind of easygoing confidence that made others notice him instantly. He wasn't a villain, at least not initially. He was just close. Too close, perhaps, for someone in Meghan's position. Early interactions were innocent, professional even. Lines rehearsed, scenes shot, laughter shared in between takes. But Hollywood insiders often point out the subtle shifts that outsiders never notice. A lingering glance, a shared joke that feels just a little too personal, moments where private conversation extends well beyond the script. Chemistry doesn't always announce itself loudly. It often whispers, and only the perceptive notice. And that's exactly what happened here. On set, Meghan and the co-star spent long hours together, discussing scenes, character motivations, and even personal interests. It was professional on the surface, but the connection, intellectual, emotional, and yes, subtly flirtatious, was undeniable. Crew members later described moments of tension that were almost electric and subtle smiles that lingered just a little too long. It's easy to dismiss this as workplace camaraderie, but Hollywood insiders know better. Sets are pressure cookers. Proximity breeds connection. And when emotions mix with ambition, the stakes become higher than anyone realizes. Meghan was navigating career decisions that could define her future, while the co-star was attentive, supportive, and, crucially, always present. Meanwhile, the audience sees only the final product, the polished scenes, the seamless interactions. But behind the cameras, dynamics shift constantly. The co-star wasn't just a friend or colleague. He became someone who understood Meghan's ambitions, pressures, and vulnerabilities in ways few others did. He provided validation, attention, and a sense of camaraderie that was intoxicating in an industry obsessed with image and perception. What made this connection explosive wasn't just proximity, it was timing. Meghan was still married to Trevor Engelson, and although their marriage had its own challenges, the emotional distance created space for temptation. The co-star's presence wasn't malicious. He wasn't plotting to seduce her, but sometimes, human connection doesn't need plotting. It just happens, quietly, subtly, in moments unnoticed by the rest of the world. Hollywood gossip columns may try to reduce this to cliches: affair, betrayal, love triangle. But in reality, the story is far more nuanced. It's about intimacy that develops in professional spaces, the weight of ambition, and the unpredictable ways human emotions interact. And when one person, Jessica Mulroney, decided to leak a private video, all those nuances exploded into public scandal.